In today's video, we are going to talk about something we all are guilty of: seeking validation and letting other people's opinion control our lives. Every decision you make and you take, it's all tied to a simple question: what will they think of me? Sounds exhausting, right? Somewhere along the way, we stopped living our lives for ourselves and started performing for an audience we can't even see. Now, let's take a moment to understand why we seek validation. Let's look at where it all started, long before social media and long before modern society, when survival depended on something simple: belonging. Imagine living thousands of years ago in a world where being alone meant danger. Back then, survival wasn't just about strength or intelligence. It was about staying in the tribe. If you were cast out, you were left to face the wild alone. Being liked wasn't a matter of self-esteem. It was the difference between life and death. This fear of rejection, now it's not just emotional, it's biological. Our ancestors depended on the group for survival. And even though we now have grocery stores and Uber Eats, our brain still operates with the same instincts. If they reject me, I might not survive. And where does this fear show up the most today? Right in the palm of our hands. Social media has turned validation into a 24/7 addiction. Ever posted something online and kept checking back if you got any likes? Or maybe hesitated before sharing an opinion because we're worried on what people would think about it? It's not just a habit, it's a learned behavior. Social media taps directly into that part of our brain that craves for social acceptance. A like, a comment, a share, they're just not numbers. They are micro doses of approval. And when we don't get them, it feels like rejection. And the platforms, they know this. Social media is no longer just a way to connect. It's a system that's technically designed to keep you craving for approval. Algorithms reward engagement. Notifications are carefully timed to bring you back. Every feature is carefully built to make you ask, do people really like me? Am I accepted? The problem is not that we just seek for validation. It's that we have been trained to need it. But validation seeking doesn't just happen online. It happens in classrooms, boardrooms, and social circles. The need to fit in and just be accepted doesn't disappear as soon as we log off. Now, let's briefly talk about how this tribal thinking applies to the modern world. Nobody feels like being the odd one out. You ever been on a meeting, sitting on a great idea, but you don't say because what will others think about me? What if it sounds stupid? Or maybe your boss shares an opinion that you don't agree with, but you still go ahead and nod your head. Right there is tribal thinking in action. And it doesn't happen just at work, it's everywhere. Friend groups, social gatherings, even casual conversations. We tend to mirror the people around us. We laugh when they laugh, we agree when they agree, and sometimes we just hold back opinions just to keep peace. And look, that's not always a bad thing because society needs cooperation. But when the fear of standing out stops you from speaking up, from being yourself, that's when it starts to control you. Now that we understand why we seek validation, let's talk about what's happening inside your brain every time you look for approval. Because the truth is, validation isn't just a habit. It's a biochemical reaction. Ever wonder why getting a like on social media makes you feel so good? Why a compliment can instantly boost your mood? It all comes down to one word. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that plays a key role in reward and motivation. It's released when you do something pleasurable, like eating, exercising, scrolling through Instagram, and yes, getting validation from others. Now think of it like a slot machine. Every time you get a like, a compliment, or approval, your brain gives you a hit of dopamine. It's a quick, feel-good boost, but just like caffeine or sugar, the high doesn't last that long. And this is what makes external validation addictive, because your brain starts craving more for it now. Here's how the validation dopamine loop works. Step 1, anticipation. Before you even post a photo or a video, your brain already seeks for approval. You imagine the likes, the positive comments, and your dopamine levels rise in expectation. Step 2, the reward. You finally get that like or compliment you were expecting. Now dopamine is released. You feel validated. Your brain now associates approval with happiness. Step 3, the craving. Now, as the dopamine wears off, you start wanting more. So you look for another post, another compliment, and another fix. Step 4, the dependence. Now, over time, your brain learns to rely on external validation for happiness. The more you seek approval, the less you trust your self-worth. This is why people get obsessed with checking their phones. So now that we know how validation controls us, the big question is, how do we stop letting other people's choices dictate us and finally start living for ourselves? The truth is, you just don't wake up one day and stop caring about what people actually think about you. And like any process, it takes intentional steps. Step 1, build self-validation. The first step is learning to validate yourself. If you don't give yourself credit, you'll always rely on someone else to give it for you. Ask yourself, are you doing these things because they really matter to you, or are you just looking for a reaction? Start measuring success by your own standards and not someone else's. It's the difference between posting something online because you love it versus posting it just to see if others like it. Start by tracking your own progress. Write down your small wins, even if no one else sees them. Whether it's finishing a workout, learning a new skill, or sticking to a habit, acknowledge your own growth. A good exercise, write down 3 things that you're proud of each day. And here's the catch, none of them can involve outside approval. Not compliments, not social media, just the things that you appreciate about yourself. Step 2. Reframe rejection and judgment. Rejection feels personal, but most of the time, it's not even about you. People judge based on their own perspectives, biases, and experiences. You can't control that. Think about it. Have you ever disliked something that's actually been considered great by others? A song, a book, a movie? That's proof that not everyone's opinion is actually the truth. Every time you hold back because of fear of judgment, you let someone else's opinion actually shape your life. But in reality, most people aren't even thinking about you that much. Everyone is too busy worrying about themselves. So instead of fearing rejection, learn to embrace it. Start small. Say no to plans that you really don't want to attend. Express an opinion that's different from the crowd. The more you practice being okay with disapproval, the less power it holds over you. Now the next step. Control what influences you. Because if you surround yourself with constant comparison, it's only going to make validation seeking harder to escape. Step 3. Limit external noise. You're constantly bombarded with opinions, news, social media, co-workers, even random comments from strangers. And the more noise you let in, the more you start questioning yourself. Try this. Reduce your exposure to unnecessary opinions. Unfollow accounts that make you feel less than. Stop checking likes and comments so often. And most importantly, stop seeking feedback from people who don't actually matter in your life. Notice how your mind becomes quieter when you stop relying on instant feedback. The less you check for approval, the more you reconnect with your own voice. Because not all opinions are equal. You wouldn't take financial advice from someone who's broke, would you? So why take self-worth advice from people who don't know your life? Because you know it better. Step 4. The power of doing things for yourself. Start doing things just for you, without needing validation, without needing applause, just because you want to. The moment you start waiting for approval, you start truly living. It doesn't mean you never care about what people think. It just means you don't let it control you. Make choices that excite you, even if no one understands them. The more decision you make on your own, the stronger your self-trust becomes. Because at the end of the day, you're the only one living with your own decisions. So make them for you. This is why I don't ask people to subscribe, or neither do I check how many likes have I got on my videos. I don't do this for external validation. I do this to give it back to the society. There have been a lot of mentors and well-wishers whom I was able to find them at the right moment in my life to help me reach wherever I am currently in my life. If this message even changes one life in a positive way, then that's enough. Because we all need someone in our corner, someone who lifts us up and reminds us that we matter. And if this video does that for you, then today I'm your brother. I am your friend, the kind of support that we all deserve. Also remember, breaking free from validation isn't about ignoring everyone. It's about choosing whose opinions actually matter. So as you move forward, ask yourself, are you living for you or for them? Step 5, validation affirmations. One of the most powerful ways to break free from validation is rewire your thoughts. The way we talk to ourselves matters more than what anyone else says about us. So instead of waiting for approval, let's build it internally. Here are some powerful affirmations you can use every day to remind yourself that your worth doesn't come from likes, approval, or opinions. If you struggle with self-worth, repeat, I am enough as I am. My value is not determined by anyone else's opinion. Or if fear of judgment holds you back, say, I'm not for everyone, and that's okay. My authenticity matters more than being liked. If you resonated with any of these, pause the video, write them down, and say them to yourself every day. Because the most important approval that you will ever get is your own. We have come to the final section. With that in mind, let's wrap this up with some key takeaways and a challenge for you to start implementing today. Here is something freeing to remember. Most people aren't even thinking about you as much as you think they are. We spend so much time worrying about what others will think or how will they react. But in reality, everyone is too busy dealing with their own insecurities to obsess over yours. The people who judge, they forget about it in minutes. But if you let that judgment control, you are the one who carries it for years. Now, this doesn't mean you should ignore all the feedback that you get. There is a difference between validation seeking and healthy feedback. Let's break that down. Not all external opinions are bad. Validation seeking and encouragement look similar, but they come from completely different places. Let's talk about the difference between unhealthy validation seeking and healthy encouragement. Let's start with the downside. Unhealthy validation seeking. This is when your self-worth is tied to what others think of you, and without their approval, you feel lost. If this sounds familiar, here is what it looks like. If you find yourself constantly needing feedback to feel worthy, you might be stuck in an unhealthy validation cycle. You rely on external praise to feel good about yourself, and the fear of rejection holds you from taking risks. If the approval stops, so does your self-esteem. But there is a healthier way to seek validation, one that builds you up instead of tearing you down. This is where encouragement and constructive feedback come in. Here is what that looks like. Healthy encouragement means you value input, but your self-worth isn't dependent on it. You seek advice from people who genuinely want to see you grow, and you embrace constructive criticism as a tool for improvement. Most importantly, your confidence comes from within, not from random strangers online, not from people who don't have the best interest in your growth. Find mentors, trusted friends, and people who genuinely want to see you grow. At the end of the day, the loudest voice in your life should be yours. Because the only person who truly has to live with your choices, it's you. Think about all the moments you have held back, all the decisions that you have made just to be accepted. What would your life look like if you let go of that? Imagine making choices without actually overthinking them, trying things just because you want to, showing up fully as yourself without filtering everything through what will they think. That kind of freedom, it's not just possible, it's waiting for you. So now the question is, what's one thing that you're going to do differently from today? Remember, the people who truly are free aren't the ones who are liked by everyone. They are the ones who are true to themselves. Thanks for watching, and if there is any topic that you want to get amplified with Ari's views, feel free to drop a comment and I will try to make a video over that. Until then, remember that you don't have to seek validation from others. Your life is yours, and your self-worth depends on what you feel about yourself. So be true to yourself and enjoy your life. Spread positivity and stay happy. Cheers!